Welcome students to lesson 10 of the Urban World topic. In this lesson we're going to be striking a more positive tone. How has Rio de Janeiro tried to solve its social problems, and how successful has it been? This gives us hope when looking at NEE cities around the world and thinking about how they might improve lives of their citizens. Please write the date, title and learning objective and have a pen and paper ready to learn. Time to review prior learning. Write 1 to 10, answer the questions from memory, and then mark your answers. Game time. Number 1. The schools of tomorrow offer teachers in favelas better pay and resources. 2. The Uere school provides an education to deprived children in Mare favela. 3. Free childcare in Rio has helped allow young mothers to return to education, leading to higher lifetime incomes. 4. In 2012, what percent of Rio lacked a reliable water supply? It was about 12%. 5. The Favela Bairro project aimed to improve quality of life in Rio's favelas. 6. Copacabana Beach and Ipanema are important tourist attractions in Rio. 7. Colonialism often prevented development because colonizers did not invest in things like education, healthcare, and infrastructure. 8. LICs are often in debt because they have trade deficits. 9. Between August and October every year, hurricanes cause unemployment in Jamaica due to its dependence on tourism. 10. The difference in the level of development between countries around the world is called the development gap. Give yourselves a mark out of 10. If you got 8 or more, fantastic work. You've understood this. Any questions you didn't know the answer to? Come back to this in a week's time and test yourselves on them. To introduce the idea of the solutions to social challenges in NEE cities, I'm going to show you a photo of one of those solutions in Rio de Janeiro. Answer the questions that come next to it. So number 1, what energy technology is being explained here? This is a favela in Rio de Janeiro called Santa Marta. This is solar power, a type of renewable energy that uses the sun to produce electricity. 2, how might this help people in Rio's favelas? Well, you could have said a number of things. You may have said it might provide more reliable electricity, since they don't have to depend on electricity from the national grid, and it will always be available on sunny days. You may also have said that it might be more affordable in the long term. 3. What problems does Rio face in terms of electricity? Well, it faces a problem of affordability in favelas. It faces a problem of reliability, since there are often blackouts in Rio de Janeiro. Far more so before 2012, but they are still significant issues. 4. Aside from money, what else is needed to encourage people to install this technology, and why? Aside from money, the people need an education about its benefits. And also, they need to understand why paying money to a company or to a service provider, it could be the government, is important. Because that gives the company or the government enough money that they need to, for example, maintain the solar panels. So education is key to help people not only invest in solar panels, but also to be able to repair them and fix them, and also to understand why they need to pay so they don't steal electricity, for example. Okay, in this lesson you're going to understand the answer to this important question. What can a city like Rio de Janeiro do to reduce the challenges of a lack of water, electricity, education and healthcare? Let's go. Let's start with education and healthcare. What has Rio done to improve these services? In Santa Marta favela, in the south zone of Rio de Janeiro, a significant problem is that there are a large number of older people who are immobile. They can't move around the city easily because of a lack of transport and ill health, and they're unable to test themselves and be tested for illnesses because of the lack of clinics there. So, in Santa Marta favela, mobile clinics, teams of 5 doctors, went into the favelas and tested people for 20 different diseases common illnesses from diabetes to waterborne infections to heart problems. And these assessments by these doctors allowed people to understand what the problem was and if they had any illnesses that needed to be addressed. From this analysis done by these mobile clinics and basic treatments such as providing vaccines, which are injections of chemicals that prevent diseases, the people in Santa Marta favela were able to exploit the second provision that was improved in terms of healthcare, which is these. Santa Marta's here in the south zone of Rio de Janeiro. These are called UPAs, and they are small 24-hour clinics that have been set up all across Rio's favelas. More than 150 of them have been set up in total, and the main success of them has been to provide rapid treatment to high numbers of people in Rio's favelas who would not otherwise be able to access that treatment. They are more affordable than large hospitals because they're small and have only basic facilities. And, coupled with the UPPs that went in to secure the area, they have allowed doctors to go into favelas to provide treatment. Additionally, given the fact that a large number of people in Rio's favelas are either unemployed or have low incomes, affordability is key. These UPAs provided free healthcare at the point of use, so when people turned up at a doctor and got a prescription of a medication, it was free. Additionally, they didn't require health insurance, which is where you pay per month for healthcare, which meant that they were able to be treated for basic illnesses that cause the most deaths in Rio's favelas. Not only did the UPAs provide treatment, but they also provided advice, specifically nutritional advice. In Rio's favelas, the main cause of death is from poor diets, leading to health problems such as kidney failure and heart problems from obesity and malnutrition from a lack of correct minerals. These UPAs, as well as providing treatments for specific illnesses, advise people and educate them on the importance of correct nutrition and how it can be very affordable to buy vegetables, for example, that ensure that people don't suffer from the most common illnesses. As a result of these two strategies, the mobile clinics and the UPAs across Rio de Janeiro, more than 85% of people in Rio de Janeiro in 2020 now have access to basic medical care in their location. Not only that, but infant mortality, the death of babies, has decreased significantly, and obesity rates and diabetes rates, as well as death from heart disease, have fallen in the favelas. It's not only healthcare though. Education is another core pillar of Rio's social services that needed to be improved. So how do they solve education? In the previous lesson I spoke to you about the Schools of Tomorrow program run by Claudia Costin, the head of education in Rio de Janeiro. That's not the only strategy that was used. One particular example of a very successful school and educational improvement happened in the Mare favela in northeastern Rio, right here. What did they do here? Well, a rich lady from Barra da Tijuca realized that one of the main reasons people aren't attending school is because of gang violence and because these children, many of them, are children of parents who are involved in gangs. And consequently, they don't have the money or the inclination to send their children to school. So the UERE school was set up by this woman in the early 2000s. It means, in English, the school over the rainbow. And here's what it did. It provided a different curriculum to the students. A curriculum is the overall education and subjects. It provided emotional support to the children so that they could put up with and recover from the traumas experienced by seeing or being involved in crime. It also provided a safe haven for students, those who had violent home lives or who were exposed to gang violence. And through training them in things like music and dance and art, it improved their mental health and improved their attendance at regular school. Consequently, the UERE school in Mare favela has led to a significant rise in the number of children from very low-income backgrounds attending school regularly, thereby improving their educational outcomes. Now, this is just one example, and unfortunately it's a limited case. It's small scale. It doesn't apply to all of Rio's favelas, and there's only one of them. Consequently, this is an example of a solution that needs to be scaled up. There need to be more of these schools doing more of this kind of job to reach the children of the most vulnerable families, the families of people who are involved in or affected by gang violence. Probably the most powerful intervention in education in Rio de Janeiro that was created jointly by the mayor, Marcelo Crivella, and the head of education, Claudia Costin, is something called performance-related pay. And how does it work? Teachers that get better results for their students get paid more. This attracts the best teachers to the worst schools or the schools in the poorest areas because it's easiest to improve their results, to make them do better. And consequently, as a result of performance-related pay, teaching improved in Rio's favelas. Literacy rates rose to more than 85% from just over 70% in the last 10 years among students. So performance-related pay is a way that the government has attracted the best teachers to the favelas because it incentivizes them, gives them a reason to work hard and work well with these students because that equals more money. These solutions to healthcare and education are suitable because they're affordable by the government and by the local people. And they help solve the root problem, which is people lacking access to good healthcare and lacking access to good education. It brings the healthcare to people and it brings the education to people by attracting the best teachers. What about water and electricity? Now, these two services require very different solutions, but you'll see there are similarities. Let's start with water. One of the key problems affecting Rio's favelas is that they grew too fast. And since they were illegal, and many of them remain illegal, the government did not have a reason or a willpower or the money or the time to invest in adequate sanitation and clean water. Consequently, in Rio de Janeiro's favelas, a large number of them in the past, up to 12% in 2010, lacked access to a clean, reliable water supply, meaning the spread of waterborne diseases such as cholera was a common problem. This happened because the population grew too fast, so there wasn't enough water treatment to provide clean water. So the government, between 2010 and 2020, built 5 more water treatment plants. This takes bacteria-filled, dirty water from a river or reservoir and filters it out and cleans it, adding chlorine, which kills bacteria, and therefore provides clean water to these communities. But you're thinking, it's not only that that's required. It's one thing to make clean water, it's another to provide it to people's homes and favelas, so you need to do something else. You also need to improve water supply. In the past, up until 2015, and still in many areas of Rio's favelas, water supply looked like this. You had one pipe, one narrow pipe moving up through the hills. And it would go to a water tower where people would collect water, very often not directly to their homes. And so many people would illegally tap into the water pipe and take water out. This meant that the main water company in Rio lost income, since people were stealing water. It also meant that the water pressure at the top of the hill was very low, since much of the water had been lost. So what did Rio's government do? They invested significantly before the World Cup and the Olympics in improved water supplies. Now, these were delayed a lot, but over time they have improved the water supply of favelas. This is Rocinha favela, having new water pipes being built. This also provided formal employment for the workers in construction. If you remember from a previous lesson, I told you how construction is an important aspect of Rio's economy. And so consequently, water supply has improved in Rio de Janeiro to such an extent that now only 5% of citizens on a daily basis in Rio de Janeiro lack access to reliable, clean water. What about energy? Probably the trickiest of the lot. Energy is difficult to provide in Rio de Janeiro's favelas because energy infrastructure is extremely expensive and complicated to develop, especially when you have hills and you have densely packed favelas. Rio de Janeiro's energy supply in the past relied mostly on one large hydroelectricity dam called the Itaipu Dam. In the last 5 years, a new hydroelectricity project called Simplicio was completed. This dam now provides 30% more reliable electricity to Rio de Janeiro and surrounding urban areas. It has significantly reduced the frequency of blackouts and increased the potential for Rio de Janeiro to expand its electricity network, allowing businesses in the favelas to thrive. Manufacturing businesses require electricity, allowing students to study more easily at night, and reducing the cost of electricity, which is perhaps the most important part of this. Rio de Janeiro's electricity supply is governed by the Light Company. It's a private business that works for profit, and it builds the infrastructure, such as the power stations. It also builds the infrastructure in the form of electricity cables, and it monitors usage. One of the major problems that it faced was that it was not profitable to provide cheap electricity to all the people in Rio's favelas. And since the electricity was unaffordable for many people in favelas, they would steal it using the El Gato system of hooks. So, Rio's Light Company came up with another way of making energy more affordable, partly by building more power stations to make it cheaper to supply electricity, but also by educating the people in why it was important to pay bills. This made it more profitable for the company. Since more people were paying bills, the company was able to charge lower costs. One of the main reasons that electricity was so expensive was because very few people were paying their bills in Rio. Consequently, to make up the money, the company would have to charge more. Since it has managed to attain higher payment rates from its people that it supplies electricity to, it has been able to reduce the costs of electricity. And finally, the decentralization of electricity. What does that mean? Instead of the government providing all the electricity, people have been encouraged to add solar panels to their homes. This is Santa Marta favela in the south of Rio, painted elaborately by some awesome Dutch artists to make it look more attractive. But the main thing we're interested in is this. More than 1,000 homes in Santa Marta have been lined with solar panels on the roofs, which has increased the reliability of energy supply, since when there's a blackout, these people, during the day especially, are able to have an electricity supply. Combined with this, having a more reliable electricity supply means that businesses can invest in more machinery and therefore make more income. It also reduces the costs of electricity when you have your own solar power. So through these solutions, Rio de Janeiro's government, as with the governments of cities in NEEs all around the world, have managed to reduce social challenges. These key pillars of social services, energy, water, healthcare and education, need to be addressed if a city is going to provide for its people so that they have a good quality of life. I've shown you the broad story of how Rio has managed in the last 10 years to improve these services for its people. Time to assess learning. Question 1. Why do you think the UPAs were suitable for Rio's favelas? You could have given a number of reasons, but the first one would have been that they were small, so they could easily fit within the densely packed communities. Second may have been they were affordable. And thirdly, because they were always open 24 hours, people were easily able to access them to achieve and receive quality healthcare. Question 2. How did the government of Rio incentivize teachers to work in difficult schools in poor neighborhoods in favelas? You should have said they used something called performance-related pay, which is where teachers get paid more with better results for their students. And question 3. What do you think is the most important of the 4 services that people require? And give me a reason. You could ultimately have said any of them. However, you may have said that different services are important for different people. For example, For adults who work in manufacturing, you may have said that water and electricity are the most important, since they provide the infrastructure required to run a business. You may have said that for children, education and healthcare are the most important. Good healthcare means children can attend school. Good schooling means children can escape poverty. All of these combined, however, are vitally important for the success of people and the improvement of their lives. Time to embed learning. Please answer these questions using your understanding and then mark your answers. So number 1, 2 main causes of health problems. Any 2 of these. Make sure you have them exactly as I've written them. Explain them as well. 2, why the solutions to Rio's health challenges are suitable for favelas. Any one of these. 3, 2 reasons why performance-related pay has improved education. 4, explain why it was important for Rio to improve the affordability of electricity supply. In both of these points. And 5, suggest how people benefit from improvements in the water supply. Any one of these points. Make sure that you use as many facts as you can in each of these. Please give yourselves a mark out of the total. If you lost 2 marks or fewer, excellent. If you lost more marks, then please come back to this in a week's time and test yourselves on these questions again by answering them again and then marking your answers. From the lesson, write 2 questions. Answer them from memory. In a week's time, test yourself on these questions to see if you still remember what you learned this lesson. Excellent. In the next lesson, the final lesson on Rio de Janeiro and NEE cities, we're going to be exploring Rio's environment. What happens when cities in NEEs grow to the environment, and what can cities do to overcome these challenges? Join me then.